Do I want movies for seconds? Movies for minutes? Movies for hours? No, I want movies for days. Hi, this is Ryan Wilson, host of the You Gonna Eat That Crust podcast. And when I want to go to a deep dive into a movie, I go to Movies for Days with your host, Professor Newman, laying down those ultra fantastic movies, those deep dives, and the best damn Nicolas Cage impression I have ever heard. So join Newman and his cast of rotating hosts as they bring you Movies for Days, another podcast brought to you by the You Run Podcast Network.
What up, listeners? Tonight, another episode of You Gonna Eat That Crust podcast. We're doing a movie review sequel that's 36 years in the making. Our guest, Nate, worked on the film, so he has some inside discussions we're going to break down. Just want to remind everybody to listen to all the podcasts on You Run Podcast before we get into it. Check them all out. They're all great podcasts, all great people. And Nate, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. This will be a fun one.
Obviously, my co-host, my homie for so many years, big legs, big calves, big hair used to be. Now, not so much. Follically challenged himself, Greg Hoey.
I wish I had big hair instead of big legs, but unfortunately, it's not the case anymore. I got big bald spots.
And I'm just Chicken Leg Rogers over here, so who's doing better? I don't know.
You trade off. I'll give you some of my legs for some of your legs. It'll be an even trade.
Then we'd be the Goldilocks of legs. All right, so Nate, let's talk about your experience on the set of BeetleJuice.
So yeah, BeetleJuice. I mean, like many people my age, Tim Burton has had a huge impact growing up. I mean, I have a dog named Zero. I have a cat named Wednesday. But yeah, it's pretty deep in my family. My brother, his daughter's middle name is Lydia. Nice. Her first birthday was BeetleJuice themed.
That's good.
Not last Halloween, but the Halloween before that, my whole family dressed up as Beetlejuice. So BeetleJuice has always been a part of my life. And then last March, I guess 2023 March, I got this email, and it didn't say what it was. It just said, we're gonna build this 22-foot. Full detail structure covered with a funeral shroud. I don't know what that means.
Oh, like the house from the original movie?
Yeah. So I open up this file and it's the house. But I'm not putting it all together because, who would have thought they're going to do Beetlejuice too? And I'm showing my wife. I'm like, where do I know this from?
Fall Rivers?
Or Winter River, Connecticut.
Winter River, Connecticut,
yes.
Right, the fictional town.
Yes.
So how big was the prop or
the house? It ended up being full size, so it's like 65 feet tall.
Well, that's good. That's like good for work.
Yeah, no,
it keeps you working.
It is. It's crazy. Yeah. So yeah, we went in and we did the town, we did the bridge, and we did the house. In Massachusetts, they filmed the treehouse, so we built the treehouse too.
Nice. So, do you know how much square foot the house was? I know it obviously wasn't fully like walled and decorated or furnished, but
I do not know that at all, to be honest with you. I wasn't too involved with the house because I was the foreman for the downtown. So my take on the house, I helped with like setting the foundation, getting that prepped, laying it out, seeing where on the hill it was going to land. Pretty much working on that stuff with the foreman of that set before I broke off and did my own thing.
Did they film in the house or was it just exterior?
Nope, it's all exterior. So 90% of this film was filmed in London. So all interior shots are all London. And then the 10% that we did is all exterior. So it was a sticker inside the Dietz house. So if you look at the porch, they have the doors open or whatever. it's a sticker behind it to make it look like it's a full house.
Gotcha.
Obviously, with editing, they do a ton.
Studio magic.
Yeah.
I'm curious why they veered away. They filmed the first one in Vermont, I believe.
They did the whole thing. Yep.
Yeah. So why did they go to London on this one? Do you know?
I think Tim Burton films most of his movies in London. But then he said we need to go back to get the house and the bridge. They shopped around to find another location to see, if they could do it out there. Nope. They had to come back to London, to Vermont. So there we went.
That reminds me of so you know how the opening scene on the film is where it's like panning, it's like a drone through town kind of.
Yep.
But it's not obviously a real town. I read that it was it was like a replica of the model that, the town model that from the first film.
It's a little bit of both. So part of it's a model, but a lot of it is the town.
Okay.
Yep.
The town that's not real, but it's a town somewhere.
It is the real town of East Corinth, Vermont.
Okay, so they did film some of it in Vermont again.
Yes, for sure. So you come out of the bridge and that whole scene where, she rides down the street or whatever, that's all Vermont until it ends up in Massachusetts.
I was waiting to see the dog that got the mates into the accident and that had them go over the bridge.
Right.
I was waiting to see that in the opening credits, just the dog come walking over the bridge or something.
Right.
Even if it's a ghost dog, you
got to bring it back somehow, right?
6 years later, I feel like there was a barking in it. Like you heard a dog barking.
Later on when they showed a dog in a memory thing, I feel like that was the missed opportunity of that dog being part of it.
Remember I asked you in the theater, I was like, was that the dog? And you're like, no, it wasn't. I was like, oh, okay.
That was a bust.
That's how it's not Disney, because there would be too many Easter eggs in it.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been cool if you got to go to London, though.
Oh, dude, that'd be unreal, right?
Unfortunately. But, maybe for logistics and your family, it would have sucked. But for you, it would have been really cool.
Yeah, it was hard enough being in Vermont for the whole summer without the family. So I can only imagine.
How long did it take you to construct that bridge?
So most of the set was built in Massachusetts, and we'd ship it up to Vermont and we'd assemble it.
Trucks?
Yep. Lots of trucks. But that was probably a 2-week process for the bridge.
Assembling it all.
And the bridge, the original film was only a 1-lane road at the time, but now it's a 2-lane road. We had to make sure the fire trucks could get through if there was an emergency. So there was some logistical issues to contend with.
So technically the bridge was bigger this time.
Oh, much, much, much bigger. And if you ever want to go see it, you can go up to East Corinth and go to the Northeast Ski Lodge, and they reassembled it. And it's a lodge that you can go in and enjoy. You can come off the slopes and sit in the bridge.
That's cool. I'm sure that's a little bit of a tourist attraction.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
it's gotta be
the whole town. I rewatched the movie last week, and I actually got an email from the lady who owns the fire station house telling me that they just had a couple from Spain show up to check out the town. People come from all over the place. It's just wild.
You're not the only family out there that's fixated on BeetleJuice and Tim Burton films.
No. As soon as they really got wind that we were doing it, every day we'd have people just driving by with their cameras on and just stopping and talking to us all the time. And it got pretty obnoxious, actually. We used to call them juicers.
Nothing I want to be called, but
no. So that was the ongoing joke. It's more juicers, and they show up in full costumes, which is crazy.
Yeah, I bet. So when you say you had to make it a 2-lane pass, does that mean people actually drove over the bridge?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it had to be fully functioning. So every day,
have engineers there and stuff to make sure that it was.
Not exactly. So in the movie world, we kind of get away with that stuff. Everything is engineered and to specs, but it's not as intense as regular building code, I guess.
You get away with it as long as you put some money in the town.
Oh yeah, and money went in for sure. But yeah, no. The bridge was operational even as it was being constructed.
Well, thankfully, no fire trucks fell and went to
That's
the
true.
World.
That's true.
I don't want to lose any more firefighters.
Nope.
Brave heroes. I salute you.
For sure.
Because right here near my hometown, we've been battling a fire they've been, not me, the firefighters have been battling for over a week now. And
Oh, really?
yeah, on Lamentation Mountain, and one firefighter actually lost his life, and
Oh, no.
yeah, they had his services a couple days ago. It's really sad.
Jesus.
I had no idea. That sucks.
That's all from campers starting a fire too, right? They think, or they don't know.
Yeah,
yet?
it was a campfire. That's what they say.
Wow.
I didn't even know there were campgrounds up there. I was sitting home Saturday, and like I must have heard like at least 40 choppers go over my house. Dropping, they were bringing water in and out, dropping on the blaze. And it's it's crazy because we've had this like drought for like the last couple of weeks, and whereas how much rain we've gotten in the last couple of years, it's now we have that drought, and that's obviously what kind of helped form. Any other tales about your experiences there?
Well, since you're talking about droughts and rain, that was definitely the summer of rain. The whole town flooded out one time. I don't know if you guys remember. Vermont got flooded the other year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My buddy had a bunch of grows up there that they got like destroyed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Farmlands were covered. It was crazy. A lot of growers lost their shit.
You're right. So that was like the week we were about to start filming. So the sets were done. Everything was set up. And we just had these just flooding rains. I vacuumed water out of the Dietz's house because, it's not meant for all that rain. My set was pretty good. There was a little water in the hardware store, but not as crazy as this as the house.
None of the houses around here are meant for all this rain, and we've been having
no, exactly. No, the rivers were all washed out.
Cracking.
If you watch like the intro, they'll show a river through the drone shots. You can actually see that how much water was impacted. Like you can see trees and stuff in it.
Yeah.
So if you look closely, you can actually see some flood damage.
You're making me want to rewatch the movie now.
Oh yeah,
I want to see that sticker.
Yeah. Well, so I will say in the beginning though, with the drone shot, my set, you can actually see that is just a facade and not a real structure. They fix it later on in the movie, but for the intro scene, you can see it goes to Maitland's Hardware, and then there's a church next door, but in between there's a building, and you can see it's just a facade. So there's no actual roof line behind it. So check that out.
I don't really remember noticing that. I just do remember that some of the effects were pretty cheesy in the movie.
Yeah. Well, they're supposed to, right?
36 years later, I guess. I mean, that was part of the appeal,
Practical
I guess.
effects.
They wanted practical effects, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I guess we can talk about the movie, and I'll just kind of interject some random stuff as we go.
Sounds good. I wish I wrote more questions for you, actually. I had meant to, but then it just came up. But anyways, let's get into it. If the listeners don't know, we're talking about the sequel to BeetleJuice, BeetleJuice, directed by Tim Burton 36 years after the first movie. Many of the stars in it reprising their roles, like Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice, Winona Ryder as Lydia Dietz, Catherine O'Hara as Delia Dietz, with newcomers Jenna Ortega as Astrid Dietz, Willem Dafoe starring as Wolf Jackson, and Monica Bellucci playing Dolores.
Tim Burton's wife.
Yeah.
Is it?
Or girlfriend. It's his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Or wife.
Yeah, one of those, yeah.
She's beautiful. She looks great still.
Even as a cut up zombie.
Jeffrey Jones in there as well.
I feel like they made way too much light out of that one. I've seen other people like really enjoy it, but I just feel like they should have just got rid of that whole thing. Kill him off and just be gone with it.
I was surprised they used him so much, yeah.
Yeah. It was a lot.
For anybody that doesn't know, Jeffrey Jones was the father in the first film, known as like the dean of students or whatever in Ferris Bueller.
Howard the Duck.
Most people don't know Howard the Duck, Greg.
He's in a ton of Tim Burton movies, though. He's in...
I know a lot of movies, and I know Howard the Duck, so that says a lot.
I can only assume he wasn't asked to reprise his role due to his actions coming to light in 2002 or 2003 when Jeffrey Jones was arrested for possession of child pornography and soliciting a minor to pose for explicit photos.
He should be tortured by being fed to a shark.
He did some deal where like I don't think he did jail time. He was like on probation for 5 years and has to register as a sex offender. But I guess he was arrested again in 2004 and 2010 for failing to update his sex offender registration. I noticed during the credits, Brad Pitt was one of the executive producers. I don't even know what an executive producer does. Can you shed some light on that, Nate?
Nah, it's above my pay grade too. I don't know.
They produce executively.
Yeah.
Meaning the regular producers do all the work. The executive ones just say this and that, and
they just want
to do that, right?
Tag a name onto it. Like, right. I'm just gonna attach my name onto it.
They put some money in it, and they invest and get some money back.
I mean, because that's one thing. Like, this movie started off as a small thing on our end, and it just kept growing and growing. And the way they would talk about it too, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, no, this is like a little low budget movie," and you're like, "This is BeetleJuice 2 we're talking about."
Right.
Like,
you got to do
there's
this right,
money here.
Why'd you waste all our time and money to make a sequel after so many years?
So maybe he came in to add a little financial backing there. I don't know the details of that.
That'd be my guess. Just to add a credible name, and not that Tim Burton needs any more credible.
Right, and he actually funded a lot of the movie himself too. I think I heard.
Oh, really? Yeah, I imagine. I mean, that way he gets to do what he wants. He gets more control, right?
Yeah, especially these days where everything is so limited. And
these days.
All right, let's get into it.
Yep.
So the opening scene has an older Lydia appearing before a live audience on her show called Ghost House about other people's experiences with haunted homes. She's still goth as ever.
Same haircut.
Similar, yeah. The show is akin to like that Ghost Hunters show where she travels to guest homes and captures paranormal activity. During the show, she has a panic moment in front of the live audience. She thinks she sees Beetlejuice in the audience. The show breaks and she goes back to her dressing room and she proceeds to have a conversation with a ghost she knows by name. She seems to be taking some unknown pill prescription that I assume is intended to curb her ghost vision. So then enters her douche of a boyfriend, whom is some producer or director of the show. You immediately dislike this guy, and it's not just because of his ponytail bun or the way he dresses.
Played by Justin Theroux.
Yep, thank you. He catches her with the pills, doesn't approve because he wants her to keep seeing spirits so they can capitalize on her discomfort of being haunted regularly by random dead people. For some reason, he has Lydia's phone on him, and she hears her text alert go off. It's from her stepmother, Delia Dietz, played by Catherine O'Hara. She sees that Delia has been spamming her with text and immediately tells her boyfriend, Rory, that she has to go. Lydia takes a taxi to Delia's art space, where all of Delia's latest artwork is on grotesque display. I'm not a fan of her art, but...
What? So iconic.
Her stepmom gives her the terrible news that Charles Dietz, Lydia's father, has died. A convenient way not to bring Jeffrey Jones back into the film. His plane had crashed into the ocean. He survived the crash, but was eaten by a shark.
I like that. The whole art for that was great. Like the claymation, whatever.
Claymation, practical effects. They reenact his crash and his death scene without actually bringing the actor on.
It looked like one of those Lipton iced tea commercials.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
It's over till it's over. It ain't over till it's over. So anyways, at this point, one of the people working for Adelio storms out and says something in French, which I assume is along the lines of "I quit." He walks out talking on his phone, falls in an open manhole, and dies.
Did you catch the Schitt's Creek crow referencing in that at all?
I did not. I've only seen a couple episodes of Schitt's Creek.
Wow. One of them, she does some like crow thing. Greg, do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't watch Schitt's Creek. I heard it's great though. I've heard from a lot of people.
Well, there's a link between the two. I'm going to leave it at that because I don't know the full details.
All right,
it's crow related. Check it out.
Had more knowledge of that.
Yeah. So
the next scene has the recently deceased Frenchman in the back halls of the Netherworld waiting room, or the Neither World, or whatever. Was it Neither World in the cartoon?
Oh, I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know. In the Beetlejuice world, spirits go to various places depending on their circumstances, including the Lost Souls room. You saw this in the first one when Alec Baldwin was in this place, and he like opened a door that he wasn't supposed to go in. You saw like all the tormented spirits. So it's basically a room for ghosts that have been exorcised. Then there's the Great Beyond, also known as the Soul Train.
The Soul Train.
Or at least the Soul Train takes you there. We'll learn more about the Soul Train later. There's Purgatory, where the recently deceased go to Purgatory to resolve any unfinished business from their lives. And then there's the Netherworld. Like I said, the Netherworld or the Neither World. This is where BeetleJuice and Lydia like live in the cartoon. I should have watched some episodes of the cartoon to like prepare for this, because I remember loving this show when I was a child. It was a good cartoon.
It was.
So anyways, the waiting room is ran by civil servants and is where you must go to meet or make an appointment with your afterlife casework. But we're in the back halls of this afterlife center or whatever. And this is where we meet the chemical guzzling janitor, played by Danny DeVito.
Hell yeah.
Were you guys surprised to see that?
I wasn't surprised, but it was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah,
I guess.
it was a pleasant surprise. Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
He's just funny to look at. He's just so,
exactly.
so small.
Yeah, especially as like a zombie or whatever, a zombie janitor. His makeup was great. The Frenchman approaches him and asks him where he is. Danny DeVito, the janitor, says, "Down the hall, second right, take a number." And then the Frenchman walks off. The janitor, he starts chugging some Drano. And then he proceeds to buff the floors. He hits a wet spot, gets electrocuted, and thrown in some crates that fall and break open. And we meet Monica Bellucci's character.
Hey,
her body was in multiple crates and pieces. She starts putting herself together by stapling her limbs. And after she's whole, she then picks up the janitor, asks where BeetleJuice is. He doesn't know what she's talking about. And she proceeds to suck his soul up.
Succubus.
And she drops his shriveled husk of a corpse on the ground. And that's the end of DeVito's contribution in the movie, but we're glad he was in it.
You did great.
He did. Loved it.
Next, we go to some university where we're introduced to newcomer Jenna Ortega's character, Astrid Dietz. You get the feeling that she doesn't fit in, as the other girls at school are hazing her. She's not answering phone calls from her alleged mother, Lydia. That's on her phone. She has her mom in there as alleged mother. So she's ignoring the phone calls. Delia, Lydia, and Lydia's boyfriend Rory show up at her school to break the sad news of her grandfather's passing. While they're there breaking the news to Astrid, Lydia has another brief glimpse of BeetleJuice. After this, we travel to BeetleJuice's place of employment. He seems to be the Afterlife call center manager. He's got Bob, the shriveled head guy from the first film with the witch doctor in the waiting room. He's working for him. And he's got a bunch of other shriveled head people who have name tags of people related to the film, like Brad Pitt, Al Goff, I think.
Hey, you can call him Al.
Anyways, at this point, he confirms Lydia's visions of him are real, as he's been checking in on her. They never really explain why she's just now seeing him 36 years later.
I think they needed money. They wanted some money.
Who needed money?
I'm just joking.
So BJ gets summoned by the upper management. Even an Afterlife call manager has to take a ticket and sit in the waiting room. As we see BeetleJuice sitting on the couch in the waiting room from the first movie, he's seated next to a guy who must have choked on several hot dogs. He's obviously a hot dog eating former champion.
So regular Joey Chestnut.
That's right. And a lady that looks like she was eaten by her cats that have all seemed to follow her to the afterlife. We also see the Frenchman grabbing a number. So change scene to the Afterlife Police Department, where Willem Dafoe's character introduces himself as Wolf Jackson from the Afterlife Crime Unit. He shows BeetleJuice a photo of Monica Bellucci's character and asks if she's seen her before. BJ clearly recognizes her, but tells Wolf Jackson, "I've never seen her before in my life. I've never seen her before in my life, or afterlife." This takes us back to the room where the janitor's Netherworld corpse lays, which is now a crime scene with the words "BeetleJuice is mine" written on the wall. Willem Dafoe reveals Bellucci's character is a soul sucker and advises BeetleJuice to lay low because there's no coming back from being a victim of a soul sucker.
I gotta say, I thought his character was kind of lame.
Yeah, absolutely. He didn't need to be in it.
I was hoping he would be something cool in the movie, but...
And I love Willem Dafoe, but...
That's what I mean, yeah.
Brought him in for a role that wasn't really needed, or he didn't need him.
You could have done away with that, and it still would have been the same movie, you know?
He was still good for what it was, but yeah, he was really kind of unnecessary.
Unnecessary, and I really hated like his makeup, his head thing.
Yeah, and it looked pretty bad. His makeup was one of the cheesy parts about it.
Right. I also thought that Beetlejuice himself started off kind of weak. Did anyone else notice that at all? Or?
Yes, it was.
Like he felt very like somber and kind of whatever.
He made up for it later, but
He did, yeah.
And you got to see more than 12 or 14 minutes of Beetlejuice in this one, I felt.
Right, but we still don't know how he got a full-size head again.
Well, he's the ghost with the most, babe.
That's right.
So, apparently victims of soul suckers, you're dead, not just dead, you're dead. So now we move on to Charles Dietz's funeral ceremony, where we have a children's choir singing Harry Belafonte's Deo, an homage to the first film, obviously, to one of the prolific scenes.
Now, what do you think about them going from like the calypso vibe to the disco vibe? Was that a good choice, or was that
way ahead?
Oh, sorry. Well, no. When she comes back to life, we're discoing. We're getting a little funky.
I don't think we got disco till the Soul Train, baby.
No. When she's stapling that face on, it's disco time. It's funky.
I don't recall this. I don't even know what you guys are talking about. So.
I don't know.
Soundtrack.
Anyways, after the ceremony, Lydia and Astrid are talking about Astrid's father. We find out he died, and for some reason, Lydia cannot see his spirit. It's revealed that the soul sucker is actually Beetlejuice's ex-wife. We go way back to a time when Beetlejuice was alive and apparently a grave robber. He's robbing plague victims, which must excite Monica's character before she catches him in the act, and next thing you know, we're having a wedding ceremony between the two. We find out her name is Dolores, no last name. The ceremony was traditional. They drank each other's blood, bit the heads off of chickens, and sacrificed a goat.
Like all good marriages start off.
Yeah. And on the wedding night, we find out that Dolores was the leader of a soul-sucking death cult. Her quest for immortality demanded two things: the life and soul of clearly poor Beetlejuice, whatever. I don't know. I wish they had said what Beetlejuice's name was and when he was alive. I would have been curious to know that.
Pete Davidson.
So anyways, Dolores proceeds to poison BJ on their wedding night, and before he expires, he has some strength in to take her to the afterlife with him.
That was cool in the first one, though, like where he takes the finger out of his pocket, and that's her finger.
Right.
Oh, I didn't even.
But doesn't she have a finger in this movie?
I think she's missing her finger.
I think she starts off missing it, and then
there is one finger that crawls around like a worm,
and then it crawls on, and she puts it back on. So I think that was a flaw in the storyline. Well, I could be mistaken, but
maybe somebody found it and put it where it belonged with her other body parts.
I mean, yeah, they've had 30 years to find it.
Maybe after his head was shrunken and some of his powers were diminished, they went in his suit and pocket and found the finger and confiscated it.
Yeah, that was William Dafoe.
Turn in all your fingers.
Yeah.
Of the afterlife waiting room or call center or crime unit, apparently. They're all in the same building. We go back to the after funeral gathering at the house that Charles and Delia purchased in the first movie. After Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis's characters perished. Rory decides this is a good time to propose to Lydia in front of all the mourners.
Awkward.
He asks her to marry him on Halloween, which is 2 days hence. After some reluctance, Lydia responds with, "Okay, I guess."
That's what you always want to hear.
Forgot to put a disclaimer in. Heavy spoilers here.
Spoiler alert.
Anyways, Astrid's upset, storms off, grabs a bike, and rides downtown. She almost gets hit by several vehicles, crashes through a fence, and meets a boy hanging out in a treehouse. The treehouse that Nate built.
I did not. But my buddy Ben did, Gaff did, a lot of other guys did, Tommy did. Great crew on that. Great crew.
Anyways, they bond, and he tells her to come visit her tomorrow. Astrid returns home, wanders up to the attic, and finds the model of the town that Adam Maitland, Alec Baldwin's character in the first one, had built. She also finds a flyer for Beetlejuice. Lydia joins her in the attic. They talk for a bit. Astrid winds up saying, maybe Beetlejuice could help, and says his name a second time before Lydia stops her. Crisis averted. The next day, Astrid goes back to the treehouse boy's house. We find out his name is Jeremy. He invites her in. We get a glimpse of Jeremy's parents. His mom's in the kitchen, and his father's in the living room watching TV. He speaks to them both, but neither looks up. We don't get a good look at their faces, so you obviously think something's up, right?
I'll be honest, I did not think anything was up.
I didn't pay attention. That slipped right past me.
But rewatching it, there are a lot of cues that indicate.
Why would neither of them look over and say anything? I mean, I guess you could be like, "Oh, we don't care about what our son's doing."
We hate this kid. He's a piece of shit.
Anyways, in Jeremy's room, Astrid picks up a book, The Handbook for the Recently Deceased. And you all should remember this from the first one. He claims he got it from a yard sale in town. Back at the ghost house, the Dietz residence, Rory and Lydia are discussing the upcoming wedding when a bunch of BeetleJuice pop-up ads begin appearing on her phone. She runs up to the attic and yells that she wants him out of her life. Rory follows and she tells him about BeetleJuice for the first time. He doesn't believe her, tells her she needs to face her trauma, and says the name thrice. Rory says it. They get transported into the town model, and before them is a couple's therapist sign. BJ is up to his old antics, and Rory is in disbelief. They fall into a pit trap and end up on a couch in an office, and BJ is dressed up acting like their shrink. This is like one of my favorite scenes from the movie.
Yeah, this is good.
This is when BeetleJuice is great again.
Mm-hmm.
So he stitches up Lydia's lips because he knows that she's aware of him and the rules that don't make any sense. So he doesn't want her saying anything to stop things. So some disgusting comedy horror ensues. He makes her pregnant and like a baby BeetleJuice comes out. It's hilarious.
The funny part about that is we watched it with one of our friends who was pregnant at the time, and the whole time I'm like, oh, I wonder if this is gonna freak her out.
Like she had nightmares of sad pregnancy.
Yeah.
Anyway, she finally gets to pull the stitching from her mouth, and she says the words that return them home, and they proceed to board up the attic door. The next day, Astrid returns to Jeremy's house. She's promised Lydia to be back by 10 p.m. to prepare for the wedding between her and Rory. So we get up to Jeremy's room. Lydia is clearly nervous because they're vibing, and it's like she's never had a boyfriend before. Jeremy takes charge. He makes the first move, and he leans in. They share a kiss. When the kiss ends, she discovers that they're both floating. Astrid panics and drops to the floor. He tells her not to freak out. She says, "What are you?" He's surprised she doesn't know. She picks up on it really quick and realizes that he's a ghost. He tells her that, he's been stuck, lonely, living in this house for over 23 years. But not just the house. He can go outside to the street house. So he clearly has more free reign than the Mates did in the first movie.
Yeah, he can't go past the treehouse.
Right.
But the Mates couldn't even step out. As soon as they stepped outside their door, they were in the dunes.
Well, that kid died in the treehouse, I believe.
But shouldn't he be stuck in the
but then they should be able to go to the bridge then.
Yeah.
So, yeah, all right. A flaw.
Right, because remember, they drive home like thinking everything's normal after.
Yeah, good point.
So, again, the rules don't matter here. It's just entertainment. Anyways, he wants her to help him regain life. And reminiscent of the first movie, he needs the help of someone living, and he drops the bait that if she helps him, she'll get to see her dad again. Back at the Dietz residence, the real estate agent drops by to see Lydia. She nonchalantly asks about Astrid. Lydia tells her she dropped her off on Jefferson Street for her first date with a boy. The real estate agent says, "Don't mention that street. I have a listing that's kept me from a perfect sales record. It's my own fault. The place had been on the market for years. But I thought if I could sell the murder house, it would be a feather in my cap." So nervous, Lydia asks which house. She replies 125, which is where she previously dropped Astrid off to see a boy named Jeremy.
Dun, dun, dun.
The real estate agent mutters, "Jeremy Fraser," and then goes on to say, "Oh, it couldn't be him. Jeremy Fraser murdered his parents 23 years ago. Cops found him hiding in his treehouse. When the cops tried to get him out, he fell and broke his neck." So we pan back to the murder house. Jeremy is drawing a chalk doorway, similar to the one that the Maces drew in their attic on the brick wall in the first film. The doorway opens and he tells Astrid that he can walk through, but since she's living, she'll have to read an incantation first. Lydia arrives, barges in, and we see Lydia arrives at the house, not into Jeremy's room. This is where we see Jeremy's parents' faces for the first time. His dad has some old power saw stuck in his face, and the mom, some archaic hand-mixing kitchen tool through her eye. Meanwhile, back at the Dietz's residence, Rory is handing out veggies and raisins to trick-or-treaters.
Oh, yeah, the best.
And Delia is out by Charles's tombstone going through some ritual that involves snakes that end up biting her, despite earlier telling Astrid they were defanged. In a panic, Lydia turns to the only person she knows can help. She rushes back to the attic with the model of the town that BJ lives within and says his name 3 times. Juice tells her that the rules of the incantation was that Astrid was giving up her own life in exchange for returning Jeremy to the living. A one-way ticket on the soul train.
Dun, 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 dun.
Give me some disco. You should put some disco music in there, guys.
Disco. Well, I need Ryan for that.
She once again agrees to marry Mr. Juice if it'll save her daughter. So BeetleJuice draws a bomb on the wall in the attic, proceeds to light the fuse, and blows a hole into the Netherworld call center. the two of them enter in pursuit of Astrid. Wolf Jackson and his crime unit get wind of this violation. There's somehow alarms going off, and he sends his patrolman after BeetleJuice. Back to Delia. Apparently the snakes were venomous because now she's in the afterlife waiting room. Meanwhile, Astrid and Jeremy are on the afterlife train station. He reveals the bargain that she was giving up her life for his. She makes a scene, and security comes to drag her to the soul train. Whilst being forced towards the soul train, she sees her dead father working at one of the ticket windows. He's got like piranhas all like hanging from him. He obviously fell into the water. Where was he? I don't like.
Yeah, he was in some Caribbean or something.
Amazon or something.
Some like scuba diving accident or something like that.
So he got eaten by piranhas. Lydia arrives to see the guards force Astrid on the soul train amidst a bunch of disco dancing ghosts. Meanwhile, Dolores, the soul sucker, is searching the halls for BeetleJuice. She now knows about Lydia. Lydia grabs Astrid and they flee the train station. Station guards and crime unit officers are in pursuit. They rush to an emergency exit, which has the both of them fall into the desert where the sandworms play. They're briefly hunted by a cheesy-looking sandworm. When Astrid's father opens the door and pulls them both to safety. I mean, it's always too quick in the sandworm realm. They don't explain what the realm of the sandworms is anyways.
They need a prequel.
Again, we don't need to explain anything. Just enjoy it and shut up. Anyways, a heartwarming moment between Astrid and her parents in the station break room follows, where it's decided that Lydia and Astrid agree to heal the rift between themselves. Meanwhile, back in Winter River, the fictional town in Connecticut, where the Dietz's residence is, BeetleJuice's staff of shrunken head people are running amok, terrorizing townsfolk because they escaped through the gap that he blew into the netherworld. So they got through the attic into the Dietz's residence, and now they're terrorizing the town.
Yeah, Bob is supposed to hold them back, and like he couldn't. They just all like ran past Bob.
Yes, Bob is very complacent.
Poor Bob.
Rory is disheveled and terrified. He runs into Father Damien, who offers to give him a ride to the church. And this is where, like, I thought something sinister was up with Father Damien. You know, him showing up there and then him taking him to the church was weird to me. But I didn't realize till afterwards, that's where they're getting married and he was marrying them. But I thought, like, the movie made me think that Father Damien was something he wasn't.
Father Damien.
So back in the afterlife, the crime unit has apprehended shrunken-headed Bob, BJ's right-hand ghoul. Got him. They found him in the call center. Wolf Jackson proceeds to interrogate him. And then moments later, Dolores is still wandering around looking for BJ. She finds poor Bob sitting alone in the interrogation room. He doesn't answer any of her questions. Maybe she didn't notice that he's got his lips stitched together, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's probably got a shrunken larynx. He probably can't talk. He doesn't give her what she wants, and she proceeds to suck the soul of unlucky Bob. Change scene, we find Jeremy about to get his passport stamp, which will seal the bargain between him and Astrid. He thinks he's won. Turns out Beetlejuice is the guy at the counter, and he's tricked Jeremy into an alternate agreement and promptly opens another trapdoor to what appears to be hell, where Jeremy plunges to his eternal torment. Astrid's father leads her and Lydia to a secret exit that opens up into the graveyard of Winter River, where Astrid apologizes to Lydia for never believing in her gift or her condition. Strangely, the church is where Lydia and Rory are to be married sits right amidst the gravestones. They enter the church, where the guests are sitting in the pews with their cameras out, waiting to capture photos of the wedding. And Rory is pacing nervously. He brought in like a bunch of like
Press.
paparazzi, press people, instead of inviting guests to the wedding. They're all ready there to capture the moment, take a lot of photos. Astrid asks where Delia is, and suddenly her and BJ appear at the head of the church. Like there's like this awkward moment occurs where it's revealed to Rory and the guests that Lydia has agreed to marry Beetlejuice. BJ gives Rory some truth serum, and he goes on to tell everyone present that he always thought Lydia's act was bullshit, and he never believed in any of it. So Lydia asks him why he wanted to marry her then. He says, the money. So she conjures some Beetlejuice powers and makes like a big boxing glove fist and punches Rory, knocks him out. He flies across the church. Beetlejuice tells the guests that they want some privacy, and then he pulls some of his Ghost of the Most tricks and gets the ghosts to turn the guests to turn their phones on themselves, where they all get sucked into their devices. Again, I'll never understand the rules. Why does Beetlejuice have so many powers? Why is Dolores a soul sucker? Etc. Beetlejuice takes control of everyone, and it becomes a musical wedding ceremony with a love song that I've never heard. It was a very awkward, weird song.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird song choices, selections in the movie.
Except for, let's go back to Bryan Adams.
Yeah, obviously.
When he was courting Lydia earlier in the film. I should have mentioned that. But again, this scene's kind of like the Deo scene, the dinner scene from the first one, where he seems to be able to control everyone. His control seems to lapse or be inconsistent. I don't know. Maybe he's out of mana. Thankfully, Wolf Jackson and his crime unit come to break this awkward scene up. BJ subdues the crime unit, and this is when Dolores shows up. So yeah, he basically freezes Willem Dafoe, Wolf Jackson, and all his patrolmen. So Dolores enters. She's intent on taking his soul, and BJ tries to talk her out of it by offering Rory's soul. That's what I love about Beetlejuice. He's like, he should be a salesman for sure. Like, he's always good at talking his way out of things. In the confusion, Astrid grabs the handbook of the recently deceased to attempt to thwart Beetlejuice and Dolores. Astrid draws a doorway with lipstick on the floor and unleashes a sandworm into the church. Beetlejuice becomes a matador and leads the sandworm straight to Dolores and Rory, where the sandworm devours the two of them. So Beetlejuice is still intent on marrying Lydia and pulls out the marriage contract that she had signed. Astrid tells him that he violated code 699 and that the contract is null. And just like that, the contract burns up. So I don't remember what 699 was. Like, it's illegal to bring like a living person into the netherworld or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So and they must have made their agreement in the netherworld. That's why it's null. I mean, again, it doesn't matter because Tim Burton makes up his own rules. Lydia now has the power to say his name 3 times, and for some strange reason, Beetlejuice expands like a balloon and blows up. This is like lazy writing, in my opinion. You know, I can get all the incongruousness of the whole film and the lack of, real concrete rules, but you couldn't have wrote a better end for Beetlejuice.
Everything just kind of wrapped up a little too conveniently for me.
So let me chime in here a little bit. So if you go back in time here, we were in the middle of the writer's strike.
Oh.
You got to remember, at that time, all the writers in Hollywood were already on strike. The only movies that were in production were already written, and they are not allowed to change the script at all.
Really?
So what it was is what it was.
I mean, I would have delayed the release.
You can't go off the script at all at that point based on the agreements.
I'm mad at you, Tim Burton. Lazy. Boo!
I'm mad at you.
No. So that was more of a legality thing than anything else.
So basically, he had like 90% of the film wrote, and he's like, oh, shit.
No.
20 minutes before they come take my pen, I gotta finish this film real quick.
No, so the writer's strike was already going on. There was a looming actor's strike, though, as well. So they actually had to finish filming, a day early because the actors were going to go on strike. They did overnight shots in Vermont just to film everything they could before it all got shut down.
So the movie was going to be like 20 more minutes, but they're like, all right, you're going to turn into a balloon and pop.
But yeah, it got to crunch time at the end. They only filmed for 4 days in Vermont.
So say his name 3 times. I don't understand. You say his name 3 times, it invokes him. You say his name 3 times, it blows him up. Then Wolf Jackson and the crime unit leave, taking Delia with them. Delia and Charles are reunited, and that's basically the end of the movie. So yeah, the end was very strange to me.
Yeah.
I thought Catherine O'Hara and Justin Theroux, obviously Keaton was fantastic as well too, but those 3 I thought were the best parts of the movie for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're also probably the most seasoned, leading actors in the film.
That's a fact. That's true. Justin Theroux played a great. When I saw that he was in it, it made me happy because I know he plays a great asshole. He's fantastic in Wanderlust. I love that movie, and I love him.
What do you guys think of Jenna Ortega in it?
Good. She's all right. I mean, I thought she was a good fit for Lydia's daughter, I guess.
Yeah,
right.
No, I thought she did a great job.
Yep. Yeah, I think she fits. It's the same role she always plays, so it's it works.
Yeah, she's kind of the Wednesday Deets.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it fits. I thought I don't know who else you'd put in that role. So
was she already cast in this before Wednesday, or did this happen?
It happened after because Tim Burton is involved with Wednesday as well.
Okay, I didn't know that. I remember you talking about it at the beginning, but I wasn't sure like the whole timeline of events.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, he brought her into that. I almost put Catherine O'Hara in the underworld myself.
You almost killed her on set.
I almost killed her. Yeah. So I was standing on the porch, on the Dietz porch. We had railings up for safety, and so being in construction, we have to take it down. So it's just me and like another foreman and like one or two other guys, and we're on the porch with Catherine O'Hara, Winona Ryder, Tim Burton, and Jenna Ortega, and they're going over their set. And so I'm about to walk away with the railing, and she stops fast in front of me, and I almost kept going, and I almost slammed right into her with the railing.
And that's gone and pushed her off the edge.
And which she would have been dead, just gone.
You almost hurt Will Ferrell. You almost hurt Catherine O'Hara. Like,
I know. Dude. I need a new job.
Were you ever on set with Michael Keaton?
No, he was only in London. He didn't do anything in the States.
Gotcha.
Yeah, which is too bad.
That is too bad.
That is too bad.
Yeah.
Love that guy.
Yeah, I bet he's awesome too. He seems like a good guy.
Oh yeah, yeah. While I was standing next to Catherine O'Hara, I did do the Kevin from Home Alone. Nice. Like under my breath. Like you're not really supposed to do it, and like as I'm doing it, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't do this because now, like, am I gonna get her out of character? Am I gonna get kicked out of set here? Like,
I might not have been able to hold back either. So I'm playing.
Right.
Did she notice or?
No, she didn't notice at all.
She toned enough that she.
I was pretty subtle in what I did, so
right.
It was more funny for myself.
All right. Well, anything else, boys?
So, what would you rank the new BeetleJuice? What
1 to 8 crusts? What would you give it?
6.5, 6.5 crusts.
Nate?
I went 6. I think it was all right. There was a lot of like redundancy, things that could be cut to make it still work better.
Yeah, I'd say 6 crusts as well too. It was definitely, like I said, it was just so convenient and so many like quick ties.
Lazy ending, and they always just rush through everything. It seems like, even though the film wasn't short, I guess, but
saying that, I did like it. It was a fun movie.
Sure.
It didn't hold the candle to the first one, but it was a cool movie. I asked the audience what they thought, the listeners and stuff.
When we did the first review, did we rate it?
I mean, I think so. I would have gave the first one like 7.75 out of 8 crust. Like it was pretty close to perfect.
7.5 crust. For the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Dewey Pod Monster responded and said 0 crust. Fart on that crust.
Oh dang!
But then he's like, "Well, we haven't seen it yet, though." But he's like, he dislikes Tim Burton.
Oh, all right, that's fair.
He dislikes him.
Yeah.
So he didn't even like the first one.
He said it was all right. And respects it. But he's like, I feel like the second one, then we were kind of talking about how like sequels are just being, made to be made and money grabs. Like, so I will say that like initially feel like it was unnecessary that they made this movie, but watching the movie, I did enjoy the movie, and I'm obviously glad they made it because they get to work on it.
Yeah.
And when I did see it, it was enjoyable. Like I definitely had fun watching the movie.
I enjoyed it, and like I said, I don't think it ruined anything for me, but again, it didn't need to be remade.
Yeah, exactly. I feel the exact same way.
And honestly, if I didn't work on it, I might have a different opinion. I think just watching it and being a part of it makes that score grow for me. I'd almost give it a 7 if my name was in the credits.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, we sat there after we saw it in the theater first night, and like we're just waiting there for your name to be in the credits. And
so you don't even know, like you just have to like.
Yeah,
find out. That's kind of
the last 2 movies I haven't been in
like
it.
10,000 names on every movie I've ever seen, and they
exactly.
That's what I said. Like you can't just fucking exactly. His boss, his name was on the credits, so that's kind of
there's a few guys on it, but like
who are they? They're naming like people that have nothing to do with it. Are they just throwing like fake names on these credits, or are they just
I don't know.
Names like 10 times throughout.
Brad Pitt's on it, but Nate wasn't on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Brad Pitt do other than have his name.
Yeah, I mean, so that was one of the big blows for sure. That, and we didn't get a wrap gift either. So every movie you get like a little gift at the end of it from the director and whatnot, and a little note that says thank you for all your hard work, yada yada yada. Here's a hat or a iPad, some little thing. We got nothing. Even our laminates for like being in the crew were like just shitty little thing that was made in like a high school. Like it wasn't even like a real laminate.
Damn.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Well, I'm giving the movie a 5.5 crust.
But overall,
5 crusts.
fantastic experience. Decent movie. 6 crusts.
Yeah, it's understandable.
Mm-hmm. All right, Greg, you want to do your thing?
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for everybody for listening. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Pod, You Run Podcast Network. If you want to donate to the Patreon on Anchor, we got early access episodes now. Thank you for listening. Seamus?
Thank you for listening.
Nate?
We love you. And
Thank you for listening. Yep. Yep.
thanks to our guest with the most stories. We appreciate you, Nate Harvey.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And we appreciate you, listeners. Thank you so much.
And remember,
Crust.
We trust.
We trust. Nice fucking model.